Alrighty, so the final game of this Heineken Rivalry Week, and I say Heineken Rivalry Week even though it's no longer sponsored by Heineken, but I'm still just gonna mention it because it still kind of gets stuck in my mind these past couple of years that it's been sponsored by Heineken. But yeah, it is now over. All these rivalry games is now finished, and I'm actually gonna do a thing a little different where I'm actually going to look at these two Sunday game as a standalone video, and then I'll do a mega review looking at the other big rivalry game and the other game that happened on Saturday night because there were definitely some interesting storyline coming out of both of these games. And the first big storyline we're going to talk about in this Florida Derby is that Miami is in big trouble. I mean, Miami, if you're a fan of the team, whether you're die hard or you're just kind of a fair weather fan and there to see Messi, I think you can admit to yourself that we better hit the panic button hard and that things probably gonna have to change soon because this is got to a point where the downfall has really started to begin for this Miami team. And everybody's obviously gonna talk about the defensive problem of this team and the fact that the way that they've been leaking goals left and right is really alarming. But I think the other thing that is very alarming for this team, and there's a couple of things I would say that is alarming for Miami. One of the things that is alarming is that the goal has started to dry up. I mean, besides those two games where they were able to score free against the Quakes last game, and mind you, they were facing against one of the worst defensive team in the league. So yeah, it's not surprising they score free against the Quakes. But then they also shipped free goals to the Quakes as well in that game, and then the four that they score against the Red Bulls. Besides those two games, they have had problems scoring goals. I don't think they even had a game where they score more than a goal going through the 7 game stretch where they have lost 5 out of the last 7 games that they've had. And the other thing that is definitely alarming with this team is that all those star player that this Miami team and Messi and friends, it feels like they're started to get washed up, and that father time has definitely started to catch up to them. And it's not just Luis Suarez is the guy that I think we're seeing this season where Father Time might have catch up. But you gotta say, maybe even the GOAT himself is started to catch up to Father Time because you look at how he's been playing this season and even in these last couple of games. This is not the same Messi that I know of. He's been pretty poor in terms of his touches that you usually don't see. He's been missing free kicks left, right, and center, and hasn't even come anywhere close to being scoring them. And then not to mention even in front of goal, he's not being as clinical as we've seen before. And again, there's a reason why Father Time is undefeated, and we're kind of seeing it now, even catching up to the GOAT himself. But I think the other thing that is clearly alarming to this team is how easy this team is to beat when you're the opposing head coach. Like all you need to do, if you're the opposing head coach, it's pretty easy to beat Miami nowadays. All you have to do is just kind of sit back and defend deep and also catch them on the transition moment because how many times we've seen time and time again in these last couple of games, Miami just have no answer on the transition. And in this game, it was pretty easy for Oscar Herrera to say, well, we're just going to sit back. We're going to trust that we have a good defense, which they definitely have this season, and we're going to counter attack this Miami team and go quickly directly on the counter attack to deaths because we're going to create those chances. And I mean, it's no surprise that it worked out perfectly in this game. Now, in the first half, the first shot for Miami, C. Allen puts it over from long range. The shots were 2-1 for Miami early, as expected. Miami had most of the possession. Orlando was looking for the transition. Messi would then puts it wide from long range before Frey would puts it wide from close range. Miami was definitely on the front foot, pressing for the early lead. I thought Orlando kind of looked wobbly at the back in the beginning, and that really is kind of the only time I thought Orlando kind of looked a little bit suspect at the back. Schlegel would then heads it wide from the corner before Paslic went beast mode here, and he almost had a chance to score after that, but his shot was deflected for a corner. Messi then puts it wide from long range. The shots were 4 apiece, 20 minutes in. It was a very entertaining start to this Florida derby, similar to the Hell is Real derby that we'll talk about tomorrow. That was a relatively entertaining start to this derby. Suarez would then puts it wide from long range. As I said, it was a lively start to this Florida derby. Both of these teams were pressing for the opening goal. Galese would then deny Messi from long range before Ustari on the other end would deny Angulo from close range. And really, after kind of a frantic start to this game where both of these teams were trading below, things did kind of started to calm down a little bit. I mean, at times in this first 25 minutes, defense was kind of a little bit optional in this game. But in the 36th minute, Messi would hit the top netting from the corner delivery, so he was trying to go for an Olympico, didn't quite work out. Ojeda then toe poke one right to Ustari from a long throw in, and again, this is another thing that is a big problem for Miami. That it's not just set piece defending is a big problem, but dealing with long throw in, they just have no answer in terms of. I mean, we saw it just last weekend against Minnesota, where one of the goals that they conceded came from a long throw in, and it almost was deja vu all over again in this moment. And especially Ojeda is probably the last guy you want to give the chance to do so if you're in an Inter Miami perspective, especially of how red hot Martino Ojeda has been for this Orlando City side. But nevertheless, in the 43rd minute, Orlando does take the 1-0 lead. It's Luis Moreno. He scored from Galese to make it 1-0 in favor of Orlando City. So anytime when the goalkeeper gets the primary assist, you know it comes from a Route 1 ball. And yep, this came from a Route 1 ball. And this Inter Miami team, they were still complaining the fact that there should have been a call for an illegal back pass there. I don't think that was an illegal back pass. I think that was a legal back pass there. But yeah, Miami players were still complaining about it. They completely switched off in that moment, and just like that, it's 1-0 in favor of Orlando City, and that would be the score line heading into the second half. In the second half, Ojeda was in on goal here, and you would have bet your house that he put this one in, knowing how hot he's been. But he puts that one high. I also wrote, will that chance kind of come back to haunt Orlando? Because despite the fact that I know Miami has had some voodoo magic before of able to come back, and it hasn't really kind of been the case, at least in the last couple of games. You just kind of had said you cannot waste chance when you're facing against Miami team. But that being said, again, once again, Miami was getting caught on the transition. In the 52nd minute, Usari then denied Freeman, but it did fall right to Ojeda, who missed wide. But in the 53rd minute, Orlando would double their lead as Pasalic would score from Ojeda to make it 2-0 in favor of Orlando City. And we talk about bad defending for this Inter Miami team, but it's not just that the bad defending is a huge issue of why they leaked a lot of goals. It's also the goalkeeping as well. I mean, Ustari, what has happened to him? Like he used to be in the first half of the season and doing this early run where Miami was playing relatively well. He was a superstar for this team and was really kind of one of the reasons why they were able to move on against LAFC in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But these last couple of games, I mean, it felt like he's joining the list of those age-old superstar player that just completely gone washed up. Because yeah, I mean, this is one that Ustari should have saved easily. I think this is now the third game in a row. I can say that Ustari had a moment where he probably should have saved and probably would not want to look back. I mean, the game against the Quakes, that goal that they conceded literally after they took the lead just 30 seconds in, and then even in the game against Minnesota, that he had a moment that if I remember, was it the third goal that was no I was it the third goal or the fourth goal? It was one of the goals that I thought he should have done much better. But nevertheless, I mean, this is just we talk about bad defending from this Miami team. It's also the goalkeeping that is a huge issue of this, and how much is it time to maybe bring Calendar back in this team? I mean, I know Calendar has been shaky at times this season, but you gotta think they might have to think about bringing him back into this team, because the story has just been so shaky in these last couple of games. Messi did look to respond, but he was denied by Galese as Miami was trying to push one back. But that kind of plays right in the hands of Orlando City, because the higher the line goes, Orlando was just gonna say, well, we're just gonna sit deep. We're gonna look for the transitional moment because we know we're gonna get chances because of that. Messi would then put it wide on the free kick. Suarez did try to chip Galese from long range, but yeah, that was never gonna work. And you kind of start to see the frustration on these Miami players' face. They just look out ideas and don't know how to break down this Orlando City defense that was very organized. Enrique was then in on goal there, but he hits the post in the 80th minute. Then there was a huge shout for a penalty for Miami fans. It wasn't given, and just 1 minute after that, Orlando would put the cherry on the top as Dagger Dan for Holson would score from McGuire to make it 3-0 in favor of Orlando City, and the Boo Birds were out in full force at the full time whistle. That was probably the loudest I hear the Boo Birds come out at Chase Stadium, as yeah, it is a full blown crisis right now with Inter Miami, and I might need to even make a video about this team of what has gone wrong with this team and the fact that there could be a huge concern for maybe even for the rest of the season, where maybe even the unthinkable could happen, where they might actually miss out on the playoffs because this bad run of form that they're in right now, it just doesn't feel like it's gonna come to an end. And obviously, the easier option would be, have hear a lot of people say, well, why don't you just fire Javier Mascherano? And I do understand that Mascherano is definitely part of this big problem. I really don't like the tactical setup that he used, and especially him along with Eric Ramsey that I mentioned a couple of times as a Loons fan of being kind of very one dimensional at time and heavily rely on the slow build up and have no idea how to deal with transition. But at the end of the day, when you look at the roster that is, when you have a defense that is leaking goals left and right, and then you have an attack that have these superstar players started to getting washed up. I mean, I don't think it's just going to be an easy fix of just saying, well, Marciano should go, and we're just going to get a new interim head coach or even a new head coach in straight away, and things are going to bounce back straight away. I think there's more than that. I think there's a lot of flaws to this roster, and especially the roster build up as well. And it also doesn't help the fact that I would also say the biggest mistake that Miami fans might be regretting, and even the front office might regret letting go of Chris Henderson. I think that was a huge mistake and a big part, and not to mention letting Messi has more to say in terms of the front office as well. That has really took to a point where this team has just not been the same ever since that, I know everybody of course cheer for the downfall of Inter Miami, yeah, and all the general public basically they are happy about this downfall, but at the end of the day, it's kind of sad how quickly things have turned south for this team. I mean, I expect eventually this team would come back down to earth. I didn't expect this soon to be so, and there's got to be a huge concern now that I don't know if there's a way that they can really turn this around relatively quick, and that, as I said, the unthinkable could happen. That we could potentially see a situation where the longer this winless run can continue, well, it's not a winless run, but more of just a bad run of form that continue. The more that, like I said, the unthinkable could happen, where this team could easily get themselves slide out of the playoff picture relatively quick. Shots on this one, 21 shots for the 17 that Orlando City has, 8 shots on goal for the 4 that Miami has, 8 shots off target for the 5 that Orlando City has, 3 shots on block compared to 9 that Inter Miami has, and possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that Orlando has. And as much as I've talked a lot about Miami in this one, I also got to give credit to Orlando City with the way that they execute the perfect game plan of playing on the transition and getting the chances. But as I said before, it's not easy for teams to do that against Inter Miami. Like, the book is clearly on this team. All you have to do is just simply sit back and defend well, and that you also got to know that these superstar players, well, might have some big name. You can see these players are not living up to expectation in the last couple of games, and that fear factor of the attack has definitely been gone in the last couple of games. And as a result, it's pretty easy now to prepare against Inter Miami, and that the fear factor of this team has clearly been gone in these last couple of games, doing this downward turn that they are in. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, and now talk about El Trafico, that is, and of course, you know that when there's an El Trafico, you know that there's going to be some crazy action, and there's going to be a late twist to the tail, and indeed that exactly is what we saw in this one. Now, early on, the Galaxy actually had most of the possession. They were on the front foot with the possession. LAFC was kind of sitting deep and maybe trying to hit on the transition kind of was hoping that the Galaxy would just kind of play right into their hand, and it didn't quite work out so well for them because 5 minutes into this game, the Galaxy takes the lead as Marco Reus would score to make it 1-0 in favor of the Galaxy. And safe to say that Marco Reus definitely silenced up some critics in this game as well. But that being said, Lloris did make a save here to deny Peg, but fortunate for the Galaxy perspective, it falls to Royce, who kind of pushed that one in. He didn't really hit that one cleanly, but nevertheless, it did go in, and just like that, it's 1-0 in favor of the Galaxy. And I even wrote, LAFC has not started on time on this El Trafico, as it's just been a one-way Trafico for the Galaxy, no pun intended, in the first 10 minutes. But if there's one thing we know about El Trafico is that, yeah, things can turn on a dime because after Martinez guys went to downtown LA in the 12th minute, LAFC equalized as Bouanga would score from Delgado to tie the game up, and it was an absolute banger that was from Bouanga. I mean, you could definitely question the closing down from the Galaxy, but nevertheless, what a class finish that was for Bouanga. And just like that, the game was tied up at one apiece. And just like that, I feel like, oh boy, huckle up, boys and girls, because it feels like I've seen this story before where it's basically all offense in this game. It's all vibes in this one. Forget what defense and tactics is in this one because after all, this is El Trafico. Tillman would then hits it right to McCarthy in the 20th minute before Martinez would put it wide on the curler. LAFC have definitely woke up to this point and been the better team. And again, that's kind of how El Trafico works. Just as you thought that you were maybe with a better team to expel, things can turn around too quickly. And I thought now that LAFC has the momentum as they were pressing to try to get that lead. Palencia would then puts it over from close before Delgado had a shot that was deflected and goes high in the 36th minute. The pressure was definitely mounting for LAFC as they would trying to push for the lead. Segura would then puts it wide from close. The shot, surprisingly, is only 8-7 in favor of LAFC. I thought up to this point the shots would be heavily in favor of LAFC up to this point, but I guess maybe with the way that the first 10 minutes when the Galaxy had a couple of shots as well, that's why the shot total is kind of where we are right now. Bawanga then puts it high on the free kick, but we do head to halftime with the El Trafico tied up at one apiece. It did not stay tied for long heading into the second half, as in the 49th minute, Nathan Ordaz, I mean, has really become a big game player this year. He has scored some big goals so far for LAFC in big games, and he did exactly that again as he scored from Holland's head to give LAFC the lead for the first time. But where in the world was the defending there from the Galaxy? I mean, that was just way too easy for LAFC to cut through that non-existent Galaxy defense. I also thought that the game did eventually become a little bit stretched. I would say that, in terms of this El Trafico compared to previous El Trafico, I didn't see as much of that kind of track meet as I usually see with an El Trafico game where there's basically no midfield whatsoever. I thought at times the defense did kind of stepped up a little bit, but there were times like what we saw right after there a couple of minutes after the Ordaz goal that it started to become a track meet again. It looked like both of these teams was going up and down on the field. And that I had a feeling maybe the next goal was going to come relatively quick. The referee was then told he sucked in Spanish. Obviously, I'm not going to mention what exactly the word is, but I'm pretty sure for those that know the explicit word to tell the ref you suck in Spanish would know exactly what word I'm talking about. And just kind of a little hint, it starts with a G in Spanish. But they also did do a brief check to see whether or not if Painso was brought down by Holland's head in the box, which VAR says no, and I think that was the right call. I mean, yes, Painso did look like he was brought down by Holland's head. It looks like Holland's head kind of sticked his leg out and caught Painso there, but because of the fact that the ball was already so far away from that play, it's not really part of the attacking sequence. So yeah, therefore no penalty was given. But then in the 78th minute, we thought the Galaxy tied the game up as Gabriel Peck looked like he scored his second goal of the season. They did go to VAR to see whether or not if it was offside, and it was relatively close. But I think it's the right call as well. I think what also kind of helped is that the shade of the grass and the cut of the grass kind of really helped to determine that of course what was offside. So nevertheless, it was offside. The goal was chopped off, but you just kind of sense that was a warning shot for LAFC. And really, as the time winds down, it feels like I'm started watching something similar to what LAFC did against Vancouver, where for majority of that second half, in that game against the Whitecaps, LAFC basically just kind of parked the bus. It's almost like they went road heave mode, and we talked about many times before, when you decide to do that, especially if you're the road team, it usually does not bode well. And we saw that in the Whitecaps game when they tried to park the bus and hope for the best. They definitely didn't do so well in that, and we're probably very fortunate that they were able to get a result in that game. And here we go again, where the Galaxy was kind of starting to build the momentum again. LAFC was starting to look shaky both on the attack and the defensive end. McCarthy would then deny Tillman in the front post, but then in the 86th minute, Marco Royce would score again, and this time he scored on a vintage Royce free kick there. And again, he definitely silenced a lot of doubters, and maybe even silenced me too, because I have questioned about Royce this season, especially the whole discussion of them keeping Royce instead of Delgado. I think that besides this game itself, I still do believe that was kind of a mistake on the Galaxy part. I think if they would have kept Delgado, they probably wouldn't be winless where they are right now. But at least for one game, and especially we know Marco Royce can be a big game player as well, and he definitely stepped up big in this one. And just like that, the game was tied up at two apiece. We would get 9 minutes of stoppage time because, of course, we do. I mean, you know that an El Trafico game is not an El Trafico game if there's not insane amount of stoppage time, but that's also big part due to the fact that we had that very long VAR check to see whether or not if Gabriel Peck goal was onside. Speaking of Gabriel Peck, he would puts it over despite being wide open from 12 yards out. Yeah, that just kind of sums up his season, and is the reason why you only have one goal so far this season. He just haven't looked confident whatsoever this season. He just does not look like the same player as we saw last year. But at the same time, I also thought the momentum was with the Galaxy. They were pressing hard to finally end this winless run. Holland's Head then had a scorpion kick attempt. Imagine if the winning goal scored late was a scorpion kick. That would be a very out Trafico thing to happen, but there was not really too much pace. It actually hits right to McCarthy, and then Aldi was actually in on goal there, and unfortunately he just kind of lacked that composure and kind of puts a weak shot right to Luis, and in the end, in your typical chaotic El Trafico, it ends in a 2-2 draw. Shots in this one, 13 shots for the 10 that the Galaxy had. Both teams had 4 shots on goal, 2 shots off target with a 6 that LAFC had, 3 shots that was blocked with a 4 that the Galaxy had, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that the Galaxy has in this game. And while, yes, the Galaxy winless run have now reached 14 games, and that they're pretty close to now getting to a stretch where they could go the entire half of the season without registering a single win. The thing I will say about this game for the Galaxy, I feel like this is a momentum boost for them. I mean, that it's a game that they'll definitely feel like it's a win for them. Consider I thought they play relatively well, and you kind of had a sense that they had to be up for it, especially against their most hated rivals. And if they were maybe a little bit more clinical in terms of their finishing, they probably would have ended their winless run by now. But for LAFC, I mean, it's the same problem that they had against Vancouver, just not able to close out games, being way too defensive lane games. How many times I've said before, when you're the road team and you're being defensive late in the games, it usually does not work whatsoever, and it's no surprise that it didn't work out well for LAFC again, and that's going to be something that I think for Steve Cherundolo, he's need to figure that out. He can't simply just put the foot off the gas and just kind of be very defensive, almost like playing that prevent defense that we always talk about in the NFL. It feels like that's kind of the same case with LAFC in these last two games, playing too many prevent defense and hope that they can hold on to a result, and it did not work out whatsoever for them. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of both of these games to cap off rivalry week for this week. Of course, tomorrow I'll do a mega review that probably will be relatively long because I did spend a lot of time talking about both of these rivalry week game. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash, subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what do you think of these two rivalry games to cap off of this Sunday action in this year edition of rivalry week in MLS. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.